Get ready for my most controversial takes about money. Watch out, look out, I sat down, I wrote a list. Oh, and when I get list writing, something happens. I just tried to outline my ideas about money that may seem unusual to some people, but that have helped me thrive and succeed and not starve to death. But the thing that's helped most with that, I would say, is food. Food is the leading cure of starvation. Okay, first of all, most financial problems can be summed up with one word. And that word is, it's complicated and ridiculous to assume that everyone's problems are the same. The point is, I only know how to live a life from inside this head. I only know my own situation. I can only speak from my own experience. It might help some of you,
but everyone is different.
And to take it further, I think when financial gurus, especially get-rich-quick gurus, will give you this list of best practices and ways to succeed, they're trying to take something that's so personal and make universal rules out of it. They might be drawing from their own life, but they have the benefit of hindsight. I bet they didn't follow all of those rules exactly all the time. Life is complicated. In most cases, from what I can see, get-rich-quick gurus are either lying and not actually rich, or got rich by sacrificing everything else in their life and focusing hard on one thing for a long time and hustling until it worked. I'm not claiming to make you rich. I'm not claiming that all of these things I say are going to work for you. I'm not writing a book. Maybe I'll write a book someday. It won't be about this. Next, my job is stupid. This thing I do, making videos, didn't exist 20 years ago. This job is not necessary. Yet, I continue to do it, and it continues to work, which is extremely sus. A word I don't even like to use. Sus. Because it makes me feel like I'm trying to be the kids, which is sus. Why is this a controversial take about money, and why does this help me? Well, reminding myself that this is unnecessary and kind of stupid lowers the pressure, and it keeps it fun for me. And it makes me appreciate it more. Ever since I started making money with this, it felt like a bonus. I work harder on this than any job I ever had, and if I had a regular office job, I'm sure I would slough off a whole lot more. Wasn't a good employee. It's probably good that I'm doing this. But the fact that I can do this, how many people do full-time YouTube? Approximately 394,000. The fact that so many people are doing this for a living, a thing that didn't exist 20 years ago, that is, I believe, not actually a necessary job for society to function, makes me think about all the other unnecessary jobs there are, which is a reminder that so much of what we do is just made up, and it works because we force it to work. So on the one hand, this helps me put the pressure off, it helps me appreciate what I have more, and since it's so special, it kind of reminds me that I should be saving this money because this could go away at any time. And on the other hand, it's a controversial take about money because it's like, this is all made up. What if we just made up a different way where, more people got money? Spread the love. I know, that sounds like socialism. Yeah, so what? Moving on. I don't give a shirt about retirement. Okay, this is also very much about me. I'm my own boss, and I'm doing a thing that I really enjoy and see myself being able to do until I die. But even before I had this job, I didn't think about retirement. Retirement can mean a few things for different people. It can mean just not working at your job that you're currently doing anymore. Working and saving till you're old enough to quit your job and still just live. But it could also mean when you get older, stop working so much so that you can do all the things on your bucket list. In general, it means planning for a hypothetical old you. So if you're saving because you just don't want to work at the job you're working at anymore, totally understand. But if you're saving for a bucket list, to me, that's something I don't care about. If there's something I want to do that I've always wanted to do, I'm just going to go do it, deal with the consequences later. Reckless for sure, but I might be too old to do it then. I might get hit by a bus tomorrow. And also, I think it's impossible to plan mathematically exactly what your future's going to be because things change so much. I had no idea I'd be where I'm at now 10, 20 years ago. 5 years ago, even. Okay, 5 years ago, I was actually kind of doing the same thing. But there was like 3 years of being on pause, pandemic, so that's kind of different. But we didn't know there's going to be a pandemic. We didn't know we were going to have this tariff situation. You could win the lottery, get a big unexpected inheritance, or your house could burn down. Like, so many things could happen that screw with your entire plan. And I'm someone who really tries to value how I feel now, what I can do now. Why not enjoy as much as you can, especially when you're young enough to enjoy it? What if old you doesn't even want to travel? What if the things that you want now aren't the things you want then, or they aren't what you think they are? Like maybe you've always wanted to go to SeaWorld, and then when you're 75, you go to SeaWorld and you're like, oh wait, this sucks. It's good to be responsible to make sure you can survive when you're older and unable to work, sure. But even still, there are plenty of older people who are still able to retire and not starve to death, and they didn't have a lot saved. And we don't know what society is going to be like that far into the future. Maybe hardly anyone's going to be able to live that long, or everyone's going to thrive in old age, regardless of how much they have. Who knows? The thing is, there are so many things we don't know about 40, 50 years from now, 60, 70, depending on how old you are, depending on how old we live. Too many unknowns for me to plan. That's what I'm saying. I'm not going to micromanage my future. I'm just going to make sure that I have some savings. Okay, here's another controversial take. I don't give a shit about getting my money's worth. That sounds strange, but it's really true. If I'm going to a restaurant, it's a little bit more expensive and we expect a better service or better food or something. I mean, I'm hoping for something better if I'm paying more, but if I don't get it, that's fine. I'm a firm believer of the sunk cost fallacy. So when you pay for something with no possibility of getting the money back, that is a sunk cost. Now, technically, if you go to a restaurant and you don't get the service you wanted or the food wasn't as good, you could complain and maybe get your money back. I don't do that. I don't care. I don't want to me, it's not worth the trouble and fight. I don't want to fight with people. I don't want to make a scene. I just want to be agreeable. I mean, maybe that's a flaw. When I leave the house to go have an experience, a nice evening or whatever, I feel like I've already made the commitment. I'm going to try to enjoy whatever happens. I'm going to try to make whatever happens be the best it can be. But if not, I already decided that money was gone. That was a sunk cost. That doesn't really apply to the sunk cost fallacy. But I'm also a firm avoider of the sunk cost fallacy, which is you put a bunch of money into a project or in a big investment in something and it's not paying off, but you feel like you need to continue because you put so much money into it. Or you spend a ton of money, take your family to Disney World, and it's a really hot day and it sucks. It's not fun. No one's having fun. But you continue anyway because you put so much money into it. We have a sunk cost. We have to make it worth it. And so you continue. Oh, we are going to find Mickey Mouse and we are going to get a picture with him. I don't care if we have to just wear our underwear because it's so hot. I don't think they would allow that. But anyway, you already sunk the cost. The money's gone no matter what you do. I always try to remind myself what's most important is right now. What situation are we in right now? The situation we're in right now is that we are having a bad time and the money is already gone. So maybe we should just focus on trying to have a good time. Who cares about whatever money we spent? And a good time would be leave the fucking park, go to a pool, or go take a nap, whatever. That's the danger of falling for the sunk cost fallacy. So I try not to give a shit if I got my money's worth. Because that's just, what does that mean? It should just be how you feel now. That's what should matter. Maybe in the future try not to throw away money on things you don't enjoy. But it's a learning experience. Here's a controversial take. Tax me however you want. I mean, I would prefer to not be taxed too much. I'm also not going to pay that much attention to it. I don't pay that much attention to taxes. I know that they're going to be there. You can minimize them in certain ways. I have an accountant that helps with that. You could move to somewhere where there's lower taxes. I'm not going to upend my life to have a discount on taxes. I just assume that it's going to be there. It's just part of the whole thing. Now, on a societal level, on a political level, on national news level, I do pay attention to how our government decides how we are taxed and what they do with our taxes. But I also don't worry too much about that because it's not really in my control, aside from how I vote or advocate others to vote. That's a pretty minimal effect. But while we're here, I say tax rich people more. A flat tax is stupid. Moving on. This one is somewhat controversial, but I think a lot of people agree. Debt is fine, or can be fine. Okay, this might sound weird to some people. Personally, I think what's most important is just have a pool of money. Have a savings, have investments, liquid money. Don't liquefy your cash, but have your money be liquid and flexible. A big pool of money that you can do anything you want with right now, I think is very important, regardless of whether you have debt. It shields you when you have emergencies, when you have sudden expenses, rather than racking on more debt. So, you want to buy a car. I think it's better to finance the car and have small payments, even if there's interest, even if you can pay it all off right now. I think it's better to take on debt and make payments as long as the interest rate is at a certain level. I think NerdWallet said higher than 6% interest is bad debt. Probably around 6 or lower can be not bad debt. The money that you didn't spend on all that debt, you could invest it in the stock market, which historically, traditionally, has been going up 7 to 10% for 100 years. 10% actually, I think, is the number. And in my own experience, I have found that to be true in the last 20 years. Lately, things are wild. I'd like to think that's gonna end. Maybe not. Again, it's hard to know what's going to happen. I just think taking on some debt with a small interest rate and having money now that you can do whatever you want with now is better. It's like if money were football pads and you're a football player. I'm talking American football here. America! And you owe a bunch of people football pads. Would you rather pay them one football pad here and there, Or give them all your football pads and then play football with no pads. Personally, I'm going to keep as big a pile of pads as I can, double up, triple up. I'm going to be the biggest football player on the field. Too many pads. I'm not going to be good. I'm not going to be able to move. I'm going to have too many pads. Okay, the metaphor falls apart there because I really want the money to help me be flexible, and those pads are going to ruin my flexibility. But you know what I'm saying. I think a pool of money, flexibility is better than just saying that you have no debt. But if we're talking about credit card debt, that's probably likely a much higher interest rate, and that's something you probably should pay off as quickly as you can. But I'm not opposed to credit cards. I have a credit card and I spend everything with my credit card. I just pay it all off right away and just get the reward. And it helps with credit score. Which leads us to the sponsor of this video, Kickoff. Kickoff is how you start a football game. Not that kickoff, though! With this kickoff, you start the game of life as far as credit building goes. Here's the problem and solution I had in my early adult life. Soul-crushing loneliness. No, not that problem. I never got a credit card. It was a good thing. I didn't want one. I didn't want to rack up debt. But it was a bad thing because I didn't build up any credit, which is what you want when you want to get a loan to get things like a house or a car or a jetpack. I assumed we'd have jetpacks by now. I know they exist. It's just, they're not practical. Sad. Oh, luckily I did eventually get a credit card when I had a lot of savings and was able to not have any debt. And building that credit helped us acquire this lovely home whose lawn I hate taking care of. Wish I would have had Kickoff. Kickoff is a credit building tool, not a credit card, not a loan, not a cat. It's designed to help you build credit safely and simply. You sign up in minutes. No credit checks, no interest, no hidden fees, and no tree nuts. I'm allergic to tree nuts, so that's good. Plans start at $5 a month, and when you make online payments, which is even easier with autopay, they're reported to all 3 credit bureaus. That builds positive payment history and lowers utilization. 2 big factors for your credit. Users with credit under 600 saw a plus 25 point boost in the first month and plus 84 points after the first year, all just by paying on time. These are the reasons Kickoff is the #1 credit building app in the App Store and praised by Credit Karma and NerdWallet. And this clone. I like it. And right now you can get 80% off. That's as low as $1 if you go to getkickoff.com/WheezyWaiter. I would have gladly paid $1 a month to build credit instead of floating through life being a dingus. That's enough talk about money. Let's get back to the video, which is about money. Thank you, Kickoff. Next, hustle culture ain't so bad. Okay, this is controversial. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think there is a lot of bad things about hustle culture, but it's not always bad. And it's something that I did. I don't know that hustle culture was much of a thing when I started. It is what I did. I got up super early every day before work and decided to make videos. I didn't sleep as much. Maybe that's partially why my sleep is so terrible now. I worked hard on these videos until it became my job. I would say that I hustled, and I bought into the idea that get things done, let's go, work, work, work. And I don't regret it. I think it's why I have the career I have now. Partially, I did enjoy it as well. I was making something I was very excited to make, and I kept doing it because it was fun. It was a lot of work. I did have to push myself harder than maybe was comfortable. I did have moments later that you could probably call burnout, which is part of the problem. Burnout and mental health as a result of too much hustle culture. I don't know that that burnout wouldn't have happened anyway. I think burnout can come from just not enjoying what you're doing. Had I not done the hustle thing, I think I would have had other forms of burnout by just being in a place in my life that I didn't like, regardless of how much I was hustling. But yes, it can be overdone, and also it shouldn't be something that's expected. It seems like the road we're going down in this tech world, in this AI-driven world, in this attention economy, when all these jobs are kind of unnecessary and we're making them up anyway, yet we still have to hustle to succeed in them. Wages are too low and a lot of people are just expected to have multiple little jobs. Yeah, that's a problem. But I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with trying harder on a specific project that you love. Maybe a little too much, maybe sleeping not as much as you should for a time to succeed. I think that's fine. Easy for me to say. It did work out for me. Well, did it? I'm struggling with sleep. I still think it was worth it. Next thing. I don't give a shirt about deals. I don't know if I like this one. This is like a privileged point of view. Well, I gotta be honest. And I think I had this point of view well before I had any money. I don't deal hunt. I don't clip out coupons. I don't look for sales and then go buy things because they're on sale. I just think about what I want and go get it. I don't like shopping, so that's part of it. And I don't like acquiring a lot of stuff, so that's another part of it. Also, I'm not going to just buy something because it's cheaper. I feel like deal hunting for me would lead to me buying more things that I wouldn't want. If I have a coupon, I would go buy extra crap at the grocery store that might just go bad because I didn't need it, which I think leads to spending more money rather than thinking about exactly what I want and going to get it. Maybe in the long run, the bottom line, I might spend slightly more than if I would have hunted for deals, but I think the net effect would be overall less. And overall, just having exactly what I want. But if you're someone who shops a lot regardless, maybe that is better for you. to look for deals. Here's one I've talked about a bunch, and a lot of people have strong opinions about. Renting is better than owning. And I'm not just talking about houses. Almost anything. Look, I know a lot of yous like to own. You like the freedom of owning the thing. I hate it. Most of the time. I'd rather rent and then not worry about it. Remember I did that video about e-bikes a little while ago? And I said I was going to buy an e-bike. And now I'm probably going to buy one instead of just keep renting them. But I think I'm just going to use city e-bikes. So much less stress involved with just taking the public thing instead of having to own the thing. And if it breaks down, then I'm responsible for fixing it. Yeah, I have to pay to keep using the thing. And over time, it may be cheaper. But not really. It will take years before I spend as much on a public e-bike than just owning an e-bike. And I'm still going to have to spend on fixing up that e-bike. We don't own a truck. I don't ever want to own a truck. If I want to haul something big, we go rent a U-Haul at Home Depot or something. Is it U-Haul at Home Depot, or they just have their own Home Depot trucks? Whatever. I think for some people, owning stuff allows you to be more flexible. For me, it feels like I reduce flexibility. We own a house, and I think it's fine. I've never liked lawns, and now I have to maintain a lawn. We bought a new roof. We've added solar panels. We bought a new deck, got a new driveway. We painted the house. We spent a lot on maintenance of this house. Depends on the house and how much upkeep you're going to have, I suppose, and how new the house is. This is an older house. And property value does go up. Our property value went up quite a bit, which is nice. But the rate it goes up isn't guaranteed. And again, if you have a pool of money that you can do whatever you want with whenever you want, you can put that on the stock market, and that will also go up. Depends on where you're renting and how much rent costs. It depends on a lot of things. I don't think there's any guarantee that owning is better, and I do think there's the pressure of maintaining when you own something that I don't love. It's never been something I cared much about. Fixing things, I'm not much of a fixer. I don't regret buying our house. I love our house, and I think it was a good investment, but I don't think it's a guarantee that it's better. I do get why it can be better, and I think that's fine, but I want to push back on the idea that it's guaranteed that it's better, because when I was younger, the back of my mind, and the back of all my friends' minds, it seemed like was, oh, you should own a house. That's the best investment. The longer I rent, the longer I take to save up money to buy a house, I'm just wasting money. And I think that's bullshit. I think you can rent your whole life and maybe come out ahead. I don't want to say it's wrong to do either one, but I think it's wrong to feel like you have to buy a house or to judge people who don't. Ooh, I'm getting spicy with this video. That's good. This is supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be controversial stuff. So yeah, here's another controversial one. I don't fully believe this, but I kind of believe it. Maybe that latte every day is part of the problem. For a while, the boomers would blame the young people for their money problems buying all the frivolous stuff, like the latte every day, all the fancy stuff you don't need. You gotta be more frugal. That's the reason you're struggling with money, not lower wages, not the growing wealth income gap. I agree that frugality does not solve all the problems, and that cutting costs on a few frivolous things here and there is gonna make much of a difference. I don't think it will. But overall, thinking back to when I got into saving money mode, I did start being frugal. I started paying attention to a lot of fees that I was paying that I didn't have to. I looked for the cheaper version of everything and became more responsible. And I did end up saving more money, not just because of that, but because of a lot of things. Putting away a little bit in an online account every time I made money. I talked about that before, the $20 rule. Every little bit does matter. So I do believe that, yeah, maybe cut back on some of the frivolous things, because that can help. Maybe it doesn't move the number very much, but I think it increases the attitude of saving money. This is what it was for me. I just switched into money saving mode, and I did literally everything I could to increase the amount of money I was getting slowly. Part of that was taking my lunch to work more rather than ordering out, and I think it did make a difference. I don't want to harp on it too much, because there is a good point that those little things don't matter in the grand scheme. But I'm also someone who likes to focus on what I can control. And I can't control the big societal issues. I can control the little expenses that I make. So that's just something I think. But again, I don't think anyone should be judged for getting a latte when they're also worrying about their bottom line, as if that's the only problem. And finally, I'm lucky. That's it. That's the controversial statement. It doesn't sound that controversial, but it is a bit. I think there's this pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality that we have. If you've built your own business, if you've come from nothing and became a success, you didn't do it alone. That's what I believe. I believe there are many factors that cause a person to be successful. And for me, yes, I did a lot myself. I didn't get lucky in the sense that I went viral. I didn't really go viral until way later in my career. I did slowly build an audience. I did a lot of work. I put in a lot of work. There's no one moment where I'm like won the lottery and then became successful. So yes, I didn't rely on luck. But in a lot of ways, I am lucky. One big one for me is my upbringing. I'm lucky to have grown up with 2 loving parents who supported me the whole time. I was able to go live in crappy apartments in Chicago with hardly any money, try to make it as a band and wait tables, barely making rent every month, with little pressure to do much else because I knew that I would have them to help me. Maybe they could correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I relied on them very much in those days. I did make sure that I was able to support myself, but just knowing that they were there gave me the confidence to do that. And they did partially finance my college education, so I got help with that. I just had a safe, comfortable life with a loving family. It's not like they were fabulously wealthy, they were just supportive. And you've seen them in videos, aren't they lovely?
We're as lovely as
If we were president, we'd be Lovely Ham Lincoln.
That's a Wayne's World reference. Be original.
If we were a book/movie, we'd be the Lovely Bones.
That's a highly disturbing fantasy horror novel movie with which I do not wish to be associated.
If we were a song, it would be Isn't She Lovely? Isn't She Wonderful?
Classic Stevie Wonder. But it's only referencing one female person, meaning only I am lovely. I'm okay with this. Too late, boo. Looks like all the lovely sauce is on this side of the table, sucker.
Sure, right. And monkeys fly out of my butt.
That's more Wayne's World.
I'm lucky to have grown up loving shooting video and gaining a lot of skill with editing and writing and just general video making. And then it just so happened to become one of the major jobs of society later on in my adult life. That was luck. It wasn't given to me on a platter. I had to work for it, but I was lucky that it existed. And I don't believe that any successful person can blame only themselves for their success. I guess that's the more controversial statement. Give yourselves credit, for sure, but let's not delude ourselves into thinking we're, like, gifted in some way, you know? Well, some people, like maybe Jamiroquai. Do you see those dance moves? So that's it. Those are my controversial statements. Oh boy! They're mildly controversial. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope they help you in some way. And is there a way I could controversially do that wink? With my shirt off. I've done this before. This isn't that controversial.